This young Asian genius, Stanley Zhang, and his father are suing the University of California for race discrimination. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about something that is becoming a lot more common and unfortunately more accepted and normalized, which is outright racism against white and Asian students in college admission. Now, Stanley Zhang is a genius. He had a 4.4 GPA in high school and a 1530 on the SAT. He was hired right out of high school by Google as a PhD level engineer. So obviously, with those accolades I mentioned and with his job title, you got to be a pretty smart guy to be 18 years old and accomplish all that. Now, he was rejected by not one, not two, not three, but 16 different colleges, including UC Berkeley, Georgia Tech, etc. Now, the question is, why was he rejected so many times by so many places? Well, this is the result of DEI, affirmative action, any kind of quote unquote diversity initiative. These colleges, universities, etc., want more Black and Hispanic students. So in order to get them in, they must judge them on things that are not merit-based. And as a result, white and Asians who should get in are not going to get in to make room for the Black and Hispanic students, and they're judged on things that are not merit-based. A lot of the Asian kids, they say, okay, your personality is not 100% right. Weird stuff. It should be based on merit. Are you a good student? Are you a smart kid? These kids should be developed into the leaders of this nation, into those who are going to head up the companies. These kids should be embraced and cultivated, but diversity appears to come first before anything else that makes sense. Now, before I go any further, let's get into the actual news clip. Of course, I will link to the clip in the box if you want to see it and hear it without my commentary. If you're on IG, Facebook, etc., visit a link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
You may recall the ABC7 story that went viral 16 months ago. A Palo Alto teen hired straight out of high school by Google as a PhD-level software engineer, yet he was rejected by most colleges he applied to.
So look, we got University of Washington, UC Berkeley, Stanford, Cal Poly, UCSB, UCSD, Caltech, UC Davis, University of Wisconsin, University of Illinois, University of Michigan, CMU, Cornell, MIT, and Georgia Tech. All said, nope. We don't need you, genius Asian kid, because we want more Black and Hispanics. That is what's going on. But I digress.
Including 5 UC campuses, even with a 4.4 GPA and a 1590 out of 1600 on the SATs.
I think I said 1530, 1590.
Some of them were certainly expected, Stanford, MIT, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, for some of them, like Cal Poly, some of the state schools, I really thought, I had a good chance.
His name, Stanley Zhang, and he and his father just filed a lawsuit against the University of California and the U.S. Department of Education. The Zhangs allege that UC is engaging in racial discrimination in admissions despite the law banning the use of race in the process. Joining us live now to talk about their lawsuit, Nan Zhang, Stanley's father, and the co-plaintiff in this new lawsuit. Nan, thanks for being here. I'm going to start here. Why isn't Stanley joining us today?
Well, so he is facing a lot of pressure socially and in the social circle and in general macro environment. Generally, there's a lot of hostility towards Asian Americans standing up for their rights in college admission, as witnessed in the SFA versus Harvard case.
I got your back because it doesn't really matter what race you are. If it's discrimination and it's wrong, period.
Oh, yeah, I got a thick skin. I can deal with it, so I'm here.
Okay, I think everyone is pretty familiar with Stanley's story and his credentials, but one person's results don't prove a pattern or practice, right? Many high-achieving, brilliant students are qualified, yet rejected by the UCs. Do you have any specific evidence of racial discrimination beyond that Stanley was competitive on paper and got hired by Google?
Now, before he answers the question, this is a pattern that impacts a lot of white and Asian students all over the country. There's lawsuits happening. There's class action lawsuits from Asians. Like, this is not a one time or one person thing. It's not an isolated incident at all.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to prove in the court, and I think we have a good have a strong case to show there. First of all, in addition to Stanley, there are a lot of other Asian American students who actually contacted us about their college admission stories, how they're rejected by UC despite their outstanding qualifications, similar to Stanley's. So that is evidence number one. Evidence number two, that we have collected evidence that UC is using race in clear violation of the law in faculty hiring. And to the degree they're actually it's not only using it, but they're also knowing it's illegal, they're also hiding the evidence of using it.
So not only are they using race when it comes to admitting the students, they're also using race when it comes to hiring staff.
So that's evidence number two. Evidence number three, we also look at some of the limited available public data, and there's a clear suppression of Asian enrollment despite the strong population growth in the Asian community in California.
You know, just because even if you could prove that in faculty hiring there is a racial consideration, can you necessarily draw a straight line to admissions? That is a totally different process, right?
That is a process we need to play out in the court. But the logic we're going after is that, hey, these guys know what they're doing and they know it's illegal and they're actively concealing it. So it's likely we're not going to find anything that can put on paper saying we're going to do this. But we have seen this playing out in faculty hiring, and we are making the allegation that they're probably doing that in student admission as well. Because
it's kind of common sense, you know, if they're doing it in one place, why not in the other place, especially when there's so many people, so many stories that mirror Mr. Zhang. It's all the same thing. They, again, want more Black and Hispanic students. And in order to do that, they have to discriminate against the white and Asian students.
These two are closely related.
Your lawsuit is the second one this month against UC over its admissions. The first one was by a group called Students Against Racial Discrimination, alleging diversity considerations are overshadowing academic merit and disadvantaging Asians and white students in the process. I want to show the UC statement to us when we inquire. They call these lawsuits meritless, and they also say the UC undergraduate admissions application collects students' race and ethnicity for statistical purposes only. The information is not shared with application reviewers and is not used for admission. You're not disputing that, are you?
We don't know. Actually, of course, they're going to say that. That's what the machine is designed to do. They're not going to deviate from their narrative. We're going to leave it to the jury to decide.
They're not going to admit that they're actually breaking the law or doing anything that could bring any kind of liability or anything like that. They're not going to admit to that. They're going to try to fight it in court.
This is a jury. You're going for a jury trial here?
That's correct.
Okay.
Good for you. Good for you, sir.
I'm not going to go into why in the strategy, but I do want to ask you, why do you think the SAR Group's argument, that's the one that filed suit earlier this month, that admissions should only consider academics and nothing about extracurriculars and life experiences? Do you share that belief or not?
No, I don't share that belief. I think it's very important to look beyond the pure academics. So beyond SAT, beyond GPA, it's probably the right thing to do for the colleges to look at.
However, the problem is that white and Asian students are judged more harshly on things that are not academic related than the Black and Hispanic students. If we're going to judge based on extracurricular activity, personality traits, if we're going to judge based on that, then it must be judged evenly regardless of race.
Extracurriculum and other things, how the student overcome rejections, how to overcome adverse conditions. Yeah, I think those are all right conditions to consider. But even with that, I think Asian students are still facing a much higher bar in the college admission.
Why are you also suing the Department of Education?
Because UC, in connection with the Department of Education, they're both using race for some federal grant programs, and we allege that is unconstitutional.
Are you suing every college that rejected Stanley? I mean, as we know from the previous reporting, 16 colleges.
That's a good question. Good question.
Colleges rejected him.
We're evaluating them one by one. We're contacting them one by one. We'll see which ones are willing to have a dialogue. In the case of UC, we have been having a dialogue with them for well over a year. Like you mentioned, this case was reported back in late 2023, and we have been trying for well over a year to engage with them for a dialogue, for a conversation, to understand what's going on. They have basically been blowing us off. We also tried to reach out to the state lawmakers, not without much success. We also had a public letter signed by over 4,000 people sent over to Governor Newsom, and the lieutenant governor neither replied.
I got to ask you, though.
No, Gavin ain't going to do nothing. You know, Gavin going to act like it's not even really happening.
Some people might look at this and say, look, Stanley is working at Google, making good money with a dream job that top university graduates aspire to. Why does he want to be a part of this? And for you, some critics might be, why are you not letting this go?
There's a bigger story here. First of all, I think the story is bigger than Stanley himself and bigger than myself for sure. And what we're trying to get out of this is a fair treatment of Asian applicants going forward, including my other kids and my future grandkids.
Right on. Absolutely. It ain't just about me. Like, I got my job. I got my dream job. I'm good. It's not just about me. It's about other Asian kids. It's about my siblings. It's about my future kids. It's about the future of this country. It's about an issue that is institutional that we're trying to eradicate. So again, shout out to Mr. Zhang and his son, a genius, 18 years old, hired straight out of high school by Google as a PhD level engineer, but was rejected by not one, not two, not three, but 16 different universities. Now, as I close, I want to say this. Discrimination in college, it's wrong. It should be based on merit alone. White and Asian kids typically are going to be more intelligent because they study a lot. I'm talking about Asian kids specifically. By the time they get to be crawling, they already got glasses on. Why? Because they're already reading, they're already learning. They learn and they put a lot of value on education. Okay. Now, some are going to try to do the whole race realism thing. I'm not really into that. The Nigerians come over here and they study the same as the Asians. And every time I see a Nigerian on a college campus, this dude's a doctor, this dude playing the clarinet, this dude could play the piano with his eyes closed. They value education. They value study. A lot of Black and Hispanic kids, unfortunately, in this country do not value education. You get kids that's 8 years old in the community that can't read at all. Meanwhile, the Asian kid been reading since he been 2 years old. That's the difference. And you can't make up for that difference by using discrimination. All you're going to do is stifle the more intelligent people and moderately uplift the non-intelligent people or lesser intelligent people, but you won't get the best result. And the goal of these universities in this country should be, again, to build leaders of the future, to develop these kids into being better than what they are. Because a young man right here is already a genius, but if he was to go to a high level program, he can just become that much better. That's what should be happening. And if that's not going on, this country will fall to others that put value on the education of their children. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your opinion about this lawsuit? You think it's frivolous? You think it's a good lawsuit? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. This is 100% the right thing to do. It's discrimination. It's wrong. And all that's going to happen is that this country is going to suffer as a result. And why would anybody want that? Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.